It's December 13th, 2017, our first edition of our press desk, press conference, where we hope to share information with you, allow the press to exchange ideas and thoughts and questions, and a two-way street it is. And so we have a number of things that are lined up today that we think you'll find important, and you will be able to see these. Obviously, this will be shown on LTV, Access TV. We'll also put it up on YouTube. This will be up on Facebook and other social medias. And we hope this is helpful, and always, as always, could use your feedback at Mazzarella at Leominster-ma.gov. If you call the hyphen something else, call it a dash. But it's Mazzarella at Leominster-ma.gov. Our first up on our list today is David Como and Phil Jordan, who's a retired firefighter. David Como from Leominster Fire Department, and they hear about local veterans helping local children. And you've already started this effort, and you're collecting toys, kind of like the Toys for Tots sort of edition of, rendition of it, right? Mm-hmm. This involves all veterans.
All branches of the service are helping out. Right.
Yeah. We started this program with the Toys for Tots program when we were a younger group out of the Marine Corps League, 1076 out of Fitchburg. And over the course of the years, we've lost a lot of our members, mainly due to age.
Right.
One of the younger groups there. Our philosophy is being able to keep the toys that we collect and the monies we collect locally to benefit our families that we deal with every day. So mainly due to the fact that we have so few Marines in our league here, that we decided the best way is to reach out to the efforts of all of the local Veterans Council of the Fitchburg area. And we now have 5 veteran groups here incorporated, and we just got a call from Ashby. They'd like to join up with us, the VFW.
Excellent.
So the group has been so overwhelming that people have been donating tremendously this year with gifts and monies, which all go for local children and families.
So local veterans helping local families.
That's what it is. We have,
and nothing against the whole Toys for Tots, but those go into a distribution center.
They do.
And then, and it's not to say that they don't end up back here, but we don't have any control over that.
Right, but with that in mind, you know, I mean, the veterans, they all wanted to jump aboard, and they finally have the chance, and it's, again, been well received. Last year, we reached out to 1,200 children in this area, and with 200 families. With that, we gave them many nice gifts. We gave them food boxes from Hannaford's. Thank you very much for that. The Five Below, they've been more than generous with us, donating for the cause and several other functions, which we have boxes throughout Fitchburg, Leominster, Ashburnham, all collecting toys for the cause.
Awesome.
So it's been well received so far. Right now, we don't have enough children to come in to help take advantage of all the gifts. And that's what we're doing today on the TV program, is reaching out to people to get in touch with the local veterans group here. You can call me at 978-602-2010, or I'll give you a copy of this after, in case they call you.
So if you know any families who are in need,
you
have toys and gifts, and they simply need to contact you, and you'll be sort of the conduit to get them the help that they need. This is wonderful.
We're going to be open. We have scheduled Friday, Saturday, and next Monday and Tuesday will be our finishing dates, but we're also opening up Thursday to help bring in more families for the cause.
So next date up is the 15th, which is Friday from 1 to 4. And this is all at the Rollstone Congregational Church in Fitchburg at 199 Main Street.
That's correct.
So you'll be there from 1 to 4.
Correct.
Then on Saturday from 1 to 4. Then December 18th is the last day to sort of really apply.
Yes.
And that's 1 to 4 again.
Yes.
And then on the 18th again, you'll deliver all the toys by noon to Rollstone Church in bag. And then on December 20th from 2 to 6, all toys will be distributed at Rollstone Church.
That's correct.
So you have a very organized effort here.
We are very organized. We have a lot of things for the people. Just take advantage of it. It's all free. Come in and see what we have, and we hope you can come join us down there.
So you had no trouble getting donations this year, David?
Oh, the Leominster community is so great. Like you said, Hannaford's, they put on a big basketball tournament every year. And it's a competition between all the Hannafords in the area. and they donate so many toys. Five Below, we're there almost every day
Really, huh?
picking up toys.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's really nice.
All the different banks in Leominster, the Monument Tap with Mike Cooley, he does a big giant toy drive for us. I mean, Fitchburg, Leominster area, people just give.
Yeah, very generous.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good. Well, now we need to connect with those families, and I know they're out there because I hear from people quite often. David, you have any
Right.
questions at all? All set on that. So, guys, thank you, and thank you to all the veterans.
Very good.
I always say this area's got not just veterans that come back and want to be rewarded,
Right.
but veterans that come back and continue to give.
We do.
So they gave as veterans, they come back and they continue their legacy, so to speak,
Right.
to continue. That sounds like the mission. That's the mission going in.
It
That's
is.
the mission going out.
It is.
Well, thank you, guys.
Thank you very much
All
for having
right.
us.
Thank you.
Coming up next, we're going to be talking about handicap parking, because there are new laws that affect everyone as it relates to handicap parking, and we want to make sure that everyone is aware of this, and everyone knows there are a couple of things that control handicap parking, and one is making sure that whether it's city, state property, or private property, that areas are properly marked. And that means, and so the law is very specific about the signage. Everyone knows that, if like a day like today, there's a little ice or snow, and it might be covering the blue markings on the handicap space. And so you might not see it, but it is required that there be signage so that you have sort of a backup. You have the area that's blocked out, and then you have signage as well. So David LaPlante is the treasurer for the city. He ends up collecting the fees and fines. And let me just say, at the very get-go, we are not interested. We're not balancing the budget using fines. It's not our intent. Our intent is to enforce the laws. The laws are both state and local. We don't make up the laws. We enforce them, and we collect the fines. And so there are a number of things that have changed. And interesting enough, just before I came here, saw two people get out of a vehicle that were parked in a handicap spot, and clearly, in my opinion, neither were handicapped. So that's changing. So this is why we want to make sure that everyone understands the new laws and how they apply to you.
Yes.
Welcome, David LaPlante.
Thank you. I just wanted my part to mention that all the parking tickets that are issued in the city by the police and our parking enforcement officer end up in my office to be paid. So, of course, we hear all of the reasons why they shouldn't or should have tickets. So, I thought it would be very good to explain that back in fiscal 17, the City Council passed a schedule increase specifically for handicap enforcement parking.
Right.
So that changes it from $100 per offense to $200.
Right.
So anyone caught parking illegally in a handicap parking spot, or more importantly, too, the grid lines next to some of them,
Right.
that is illegal, and you will get a $200 ticket, which will need to
Grid
be
lines
paid.
meaning the lines, I mean, people that have vans need to be able to extend out sort of the elevator.
Elevators,
lift.
yep.
And if you're parked in those areas, you might not be able to get out to those areas. And so that's why it's part of that grid.
Right. So we had to jump through some hoops and get our parking tickets all redone. It was quite a process. So we're all set to go. So as of January 1st, the city police and our city parking enforcement officer will begin issuing those tickets at $200. Now, along with that, this happened before the governor signed his new law.
Now, let me just explain,
Yep.
ask a question. So what happens if someone has a placard and they forget to put it up?
Okay. So the law specifically states that the handicap placard has to be showing face out, hanging from your rearview mirror.
Right.
So you're not supposed to put it on your dashboard or on your seat or upside down because they can't read it. It has information on the placard that tells the person that that is a legal document, legally parked there. So rightly so, if they don't have it hanging up, the law says they get a ticket. Leominster, we're trying to help people with that, where first-time offenders with proof, we reduce it to $25. But that's a one-time deal. If it happens again, you get the now $200 ticket.
So even if you have a placard, it's extremely important that you take note to the fact that you must, it's not even optional, you must post the placard, and it must be posted properly.
Properly.
Because there's no other way for anybody to know. It's a fair system, and there's no way
Correct.
for anybody to know.
And that helps the policeman or the parking enforcement officer who's walking towards the vehicle. If they can see that placard the
Right.
correct way, they know everything's okay. But they're looking for the date that's on there. You can't cover that up. You don't need to show your picture.
Right.
And they need to see that it's a valid and
Somebody
document.
didn't make it up in Photoshop and
Exactly.
then laminate it.
Exactly. So that's what happens with the parking tickets. But on the second side of this, the state had a law about handicap parking, and they decided that it wasn't strong enough. So as you may recall, the governor signed back a while ago enforcement now to be changed to if you're caught illegally using the placard. Now, this doesn't mean just parking in the parking space. It means like I'm using your placard and I get caught. There's a $500 fine citation to be issued by the police department.
So somebody takes somebody's car and says, I'll take grandma's car because I can get a better parking spot
Correct.
at some function or whatever, right? And they're going to the 4 Points, a DoubleTree.
Yeah.
And they say, you know what, place is going to be packed. I'll take that and I'll get a front row parking spot.
Right.
You're going to get a fine.
No, if you get caught, I mean, good luck. If you get caught, not only is it a $500 fine, but the registrar from the RMV is said to suspend your license for 30 days for the first offense. If you do it again and get caught, it's a $1,000 fine
Right.
and a 60-day suspension of your license, and
Right.
it just keeps going. So I guess this is to try to help keep those spaces open for the people who really need them.
Right.
And I have to always want to tell you that the thing I hear a lot, not the most, but are people who they have their spouse has the handicap parking placard, and they drive, and
Right.
they get out of the car, park in a handicap spot, and they get out of the vehicle and go in CVS or wherever they're going. That is an illegal use because
Right.
the spouse can walk.
Right.
It's not. It's for the other person.
Right.
So we have to make sure that if your handicapped person's not getting out of the vehicle, do not park in a handicapped spot.
So they're clamping down on all of this.
Big time,
So
big
those are
time.
the changes.
Yep.
As always, there is an appeal process, correct?
Correct.
And you can appeal it if you feel unjustifiably you've
Right.
been issued a citation.
Yep.
And as David said, it's a $25 fine for the first
For the first time.
But after that, it'll
be now 200.
200, and if you want to contest it, you can obviously
Yep.
appeal it.
And that process, Mayor, is if they feel that they should not have gotten that ticket, they need to come or call to my office, and we will set up a hearing for them. And that's done at City Hall once a month.
Right. Okay, David.
That's it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Coming up next, we'll be talking about streetlights, and as we talk about streetlights, there seems to be streetlights across the street from streetlights sometimes. Anyway, the city, National Grid used to own those streetlights, and all of the aluminum poles that you see in the downtown area mostly, those were all owned by National Grid. And so what the city did is, many cities did at the very beginning, is they went into an agreement where they had a company come in and install all new lights, LED lights, but they would lease that. That would be a lease agreement. What we did is we waited long enough to watch how this sort of played out and for the technology in LED lights to change, and they in fact have. And what we've done now is we've actually purchased the street lights, those aluminum poles that you see in the downtown area, and all of the street lights, and not the poles, those wood poles, but the street lights themselves. And in that purchase means replacement of LED lights. Roger Brooks is here, and Joe Poria. Thank you guys for joining me here. We'll get you mic'd. But anyway, Joe, there's 3,600 streetlights in the city, not 3,601, just 3,600 of these lights. And so now what's happened, guys, is we've purchased the system.
Correct.
It's now ours. And the lights downtown, which are the aluminums, how people can tell that they've been changed over is we'll go from that satin brushed aluminum look to a black ornamental pole.
Correct.
And then LED lights on the top.
Yeah.
And on the regular lights, where they have wood, sort of the wood poles, people will begin to see, really they'll start to notice not so much the light fixture or the arm, but last night I went down North Main Street. I could see the LED lights out there. So that's probably what would be noticeable.
Yeah, it's a lot cleaner light.
It's a white light.
And then I think the other thing that's going to be noticeable is the savings. So you want to explain that, Roger, what our cost was, what our payback is, and our savings?
We'd spend between $430,000 and $445,000 a year on street lighting, and we expect to be saving somewhere in the neighborhood of $300,000 to $325,000 a year on our operating costs for that. The LEDs are a lot easier to maintain. We've had a lot of people call and say, you know, these high-pressure sodiums are out, you know, can you send somebody out? Joe's
Constantly out there, we're fixing them.
Yeah.
They don't last as long.
Now that we bought the lights, Joe is going out to fix these lights. As we replace them with the LEDs have a 10-year warranty. The failure rate is less than 1% on these lights, so they'll last a lot longer. There'll be fewer inconveniences for the neighborhoods.
And easier to change when we have to change them.
Correct.
Kind of a pull-out, plug-in kind of thing,
A
right?
lot lighter too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been really good so far. We've had a lot of cooperation, a lot of benefit from MAPC, Metropolitan Area Planning Commission, worked with us on procurement on all of this. We've been able to save a lot more money than we thought we were going to
We
have to
thought we were going to spend about 1.5. We ended up,
Correct.
at the end, probably spending around 900,000.
Between 9 and 950, I think, is
So that's
a good number.
substantial savings.
But we've been able to leverage some of the MassWorks money that Wendy Weeks was able to get, and that'll save us a little bit on some of the lights in that immediate project area.
Right.
And then the Green Communities Act, we've been able to use some of that money as well. So it's a real benefit for the community.
So we're going to have LED lights. Let's talk about the technology, because it's really amazing how technology is changing everything, and even street lights. So we'll be able to control these lights,
Yes.
the lumens.
The fixtures we're putting out, we're replacing a 50-watt fixture with a 15-watt fixture.
Right.
In most of the residential areas. On a higher traveled road, they're 100-watt or a 250-watt. They're being changed with either a 41-watt fixture or an 88.
Right. Which are pretty equivalent
They're
to what they put out.
right. They're putting out a 15-watt puts out about the same or a little more than a 50-watt.
Right. It's like having the same size car, and because of the engine, one gets 25 miles a gallon, and the other one gets 50.
Newer technology, you know, they use different types of angles to get the different brightness. In the downtown area, we're putting 219-watt fixtures. It's a much brighter.
Right.
With the technology of the smart metering we're putting on them, we're going to be able to dim them down a little bit. So instead of burning it at full brightness, 100%, we'll go to 90. It'll make the light fixture last a lot longer, but not affect the outcome of the fixture.
Right.
You know, the light output.
So we can adjust these lighting if we get a complaint from somebody, or we want to increase the lumens because we're having somebody calls and says, we see suspicious activity on the corner of Union and Graham Street. We can increase the lumens so that we can, sort of better
If
see
we've already
that.
dimmed it down, we can bring it back up
We
to
can
the
bring it back up.
full capacity.
That's amazing technology today. And then we even talked about how the next wave is, have a landing site for drones so they can recharge, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing things that can get done today with technology. But we own the system now,
Yeah.
and we'll maintain it. And obviously, anybody that uses LED lighting knows that you don't have to replace those lights as often.
No.
And as you said, they're lighter, and sort of the way the system works is you just kind of pull it out, right? Pop in another one, and
Yeah,
gone.
pop it out, put a new one in and go.
as a result, as part of this, we get ornamental lighting for the downtown area. Any place there was an aluminum lighting, so some of the parking lots, some of the main roads up towards West Street and Merriam, and down Main Street and that area, through Monument Square and Central Street, all brand new ornamental lights as part of this. So
Yeah.
wonderful, looks great.
The company started installing Monday. They're doing about 100 lights a week.
I saw that,
Once you
boy.
get full capacity.
They're amazing how fast they move. It's incredible. So they were up by the car barn, Upper North Main Street near the Fitchburg-Leominster line, near Hyundai, Route 2
No.
Hyundai, they were there.
Except for North Main Street, all the side street off of North Main Street from Route 2 is done.
All done now.
And they started in North Leominster this morning.
So coming soon to your neighborhood, LED lighting. Certainly let us know what you think. D. Mazzarella at leominster-ma.gov. David?
So you said the Route 12 area, the North Main Street area is being worked on first. They're in North Leominster today. Is it just going to be basically moving south, throughout the city, or where is the next areas that they're going to be working on?
They're going to do 100 light fixtures a day, so they're going to be in North Leominster for a couple of weeks, and then as they come out, we'll start spreading across Mechanic Street Way, heading up the west side, down Hamilton Street, and
Okay.
around the city that way.
All right. A little over a year ago, the American Medical Association issued a notice about. Oh, sorry. Thank you. The American Medical Association issued a notice about LED lights, saying that despite the energy efficiency benefits, the new designs emit a large amount of blue light that can increase concerns like road hazards, make reflections worse, and also throw off circadian rhythms for not only people but also animals, because the lights are bluer than the sodium lights that were there, or candlelight, which was used before. Has the city taken any steps to address the concerns that were brought up by the American Medical Association?
We discussed that with the people at the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission. They're processing this program statewide with basically the assistance of Department of Energy Resources. And those questions were answered. We've downsized, I think it's a 3,000 to 4,000 on the color, so that we've tried to address that in installing these new fixtures. So I would say that the state has looked at that, and we've worked with them on that to keep it, environmentally appropriate, and also with the concerns of any health issues. Sure.
Well, guys, thank you. That's a great job. Joe's going to stay here because we're going to talk about radios. But good job. A lot of this stuff was done internally with a great team of people that we have working for the city that do a lot of this. A lot of towns and cities have hired out. Have had to pay consultants to come in and do this kind of work, and it costs a lot of money to do that. And that's a significant savings, and a tribute to the great teams that we have here in local city government. Just quickly, as we begin to shift into radio systems, the chief couldn't be here, the police chief, but the parking ban, we do get calls frequently. It is posted on the website, leominster-ma.gov. And what the ordinance reads. We also put out a code red to anybody that is on the code red system or wants to be, letting them know what the parking ban is. It's no longer a 24-hour every day from December 1st till April. Now what works is that when there's an emergency, it's it's 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. and it's 48 hours before the predicted storm and 48 hours after. I'm not sure how, we're not always accurate on that, but that's the way the ordinance is written. The important thing is, if we're out there and our equipment is out there, the streets need to be clean and free of vehicles obstructing, because it's very expensive for us to be out there, and people have to find a place to go. You can use the municipal garage, and you can also use the parking garage on Nashua Street, run by Mart. And on the weekends, it's free. On the weekdays, you will have to pay. However, it's really critical that we're able to get these streets clean so we don't have to come back, so we can open them up to police and fire. So check for the website on the local ordinance, but has been some confusion about it. Okay, so Joe, we met in 2014. We set up the safety task force and include all departments around the city, mostly public safety. And one of the recommendations was better communications. And fire department had some areas, well, they had older equipment, but had some areas of town that it was very difficult to communicate. Leominster is surrounded by 12 hills, and geographically, it poses some issues. Same thing with the police department when you get down around Riverside Apartments, State Street, so you get around Hilltop Gardens, the hospital, the high school, some of those areas. We ran into these sort of issues. Thus far, radio systems for police and fire and DPW were replaced last year.
Correct.
And as we were building the system, we were learning, and we decided that we would do the schools last, because actually as we're learning through the process, we would leave the schools last. So at the end of the day, we really had this perfected in terms of connectivity, because there are 9 different locations of school settings in the city, and we want to make sure we could reach all of them and do a good job of that. So the city appropriated $305,000 that we used from free cash, the free cash account, to build a radio system for the schools. So now the schools are connected, not only between themselves, but with us.
Correct. We have each school has their own internal radio system,
Right,
so
so
they
they
can
can
use
talk
it
to
day
each
to
other.
day. Correct. But in that system, we built it out so that they can talk to every school at the same time.
Right.
Not all portables can talk to them, because you don't want
Right. There's some
100
security
people
within the
talking.
security.
Correct. So we have the day-to-day operations, and then if there's an emergency, they can talk to all the schools by turning a channel on their radio. Each radio, we bought 281 portables amongst the schools, plus the 11 schools, including the superintendent's office, has a base radio,
Right.
which is a 40-watt radio compared to a little 5-watt, so the signal can get
So
out
we
a
could
little
talk to the
strong.
school department right now.
Yes.
You want to give us a little sort of demonstration?
So I set it up on school-wide.
Right.
Joe Poirier to JA school.
So that kicks out to a repeater.
Out
That's
to
what
the
you hear,
repeater
that
in the
little,
school, the
that's where you hear
clicking.
that little noise there.
Go here.
You want to turn up the volume?
JA, could you give me a 5 count on your radio, please?
1, 2, 3, 5.
It was a little scratchy.
Well, they probably didn't hold it on.
They're not probably pushing it down, correct.
So now we have connectivity through police and fire.
And they
So if
can
there's a
call
situation-
directly to the police dispatcher and directly to the fire to give us updates as they go into the calls.
Right.
Which won't affect the cruiser or fire truck going there.
Right, so they can give us up to date. So if we're heading there and they're like, well, you know, there doesn't seem to be anything going on, but we did get a report, everyone's trained within the schools to sort of take certain measures in protection and closing doors and barricading, and so everybody knows what they're doing. But the communication piece was what was missing. That really is improved now, not only internally in the schools, but school to school, and now directly with public safety.
So the only part of this left we have is to get yours programmed so you can hear what we're talking about.
And then.
So I'm kinda dragging
we've-
my feet. We'll
We've
see how-
closed the loop, because you know I'll be
finish
using
that.
it.
That's
'Cause
right.
you know I'll be on it.
That's right.
All right, Joe, I think we're all set with you. Thanks a lot. Thanks for, again, internally, we were able to put this together without paying the high price of consultants to have us put this together. We're able to do it ourselves. Yes?
Question that I had was, I know when some other systems like around the region have been, or around the country have been upgraded, they put encryption in, which prevented people from listening in, through their portables, scanners or, tabletop scanners. Is there any encryption built into this system that would prevent people from, listening to any of the, information that's exchanged between the departments?
There is no encryption put in. The police department has encryption for their detectives and stuff. But they're more communication to get the people there to get the help.
So you're not going to be able to hear this over the air, kind of. This is, radio to radio. This isn't like the police radios. You can get on that app and, pick up the app, which is a rebroadcast.
Right.
Or if
But no.
people have a scanner on their, on their table or a
Right.
handheld one, they can listen to that.
They can listen to it, but there's no encryption on it because, the bus is here to pick up the kids.
But then there's
This
certain
teacher needs
channels
help.
that'll be internal that nobody will be able
They
to hear.
won't-
Like we have
right.
internal channels at the police department that you can't hear.
Okay, all right.
Right.
Thank you, Joe. And everybody else that worked so hard to make this happen, and close to $1 million spent on new radio system for the city. Thank you. Next is Ray Racine, Dave Smith. We'll talk about plowing and storm prep. And just want to let you know, we had our first storm. Some of these storms are a lot more work than if you got 2 feet of snow, because they start early in the morning as the last storm started. started early in the morning, and it didn't end till the next day, and then you've got melting and the fluctuation of temperatures. Luckily, on Sunday morning, we had the sun did come out. It got warm, but then there's freezing because the temperature dropped. It got a little warmer the next day, and then again the temperatures dropped. Last night, for instance, yesterday it went from snow to sleet to rain, and then everything that was wet last night froze right over this morning. And so it's not always we only had a half inch of snow, and it it was very inexpensive to do. Oftentimes these storms will go on for a long time. So Dave and Ray are here. Talk a little bit about sort of the preparation for how many pieces of equipment we put out there on a typical storm.
In the height of a snowstorm, we'll have 100 pieces. We have approximately 45 city vehicles and 60 private contractors.
That's a lot of equipment.
a lot
That's a
of
big
equipment.
city.
Yeah, we do a nice job.
Just going up around the loop.
Up around the horn.
Yeah, around
we
the horn, up the loop there is you could lose people up there for days. Just round and around they
I
go.
think we have.
Yeah, still some people.
Number-wise, we have 500 streets, 200 miles of road, and now we're the proud owners of 77 miles of sidewalk.
Aha.
So, all takes time, patience, and by the time we're done, I think everybody will be pretty pleased at the results that we
Yeah, they did a
provide.
good job. This storm was a hard one to manage, and during the day you pre-treat. I know there's some people will say, geez, I drive down the street and all that pre-treatment is pushed off to the side, when actually it's ground into the blacktop. It sort of makes like a little invisible surface there that you really don't see.
Right. The theory behind that is once the precipitation starts, it mixes with the salt that's been mashed to powder, if you will,
Right.
and it creates a barrier so that the snow can't adhere to the pavement. And it
doesn't
works.
compact. And that's the worst thing, because I remember having to take out that grader. Remember that we used to have to bring that grader out and run it down the street, and it would ruin the street because it had little claws in it, and it would make we'd ruin perfectly good blacktop, and because there'd be an inch and a half, 2 inches of nothing but ice around the city.
Typical salt works to a little bit less than 20 degrees, and after 20 degrees and lower, you can't activate it.
Right.
But now we have a treated salt that'll go to somewhere near 10 degrees, so it's a little bit more expensive,
Right.
but it really has helped us out. And this is sort of a science thing, and as we get better at it, I mean, as you see, I was in Sterling this weekend, and they use sand, and what a mess. It's stuck to everything. And you see our roads now, they're very clean. It's better for the vehicles. It's better for everything, the way
And
we...
less cleanup in the spring.
Much less cleanup.
Yeah, for everybody, for the homeowner and everybody.
Not using sand's been a huge accomplishment for us.
Let's shift over for a minute to Slackbrook, which is Exchange Street, Upper Exchange Street, and there was that huge glacial push-through river. I assume at one time it was all level, and then whatever the glacial push sort of created this big gully, and right through the earth, it just ate its way through. Right, the water, you just can't stop the water. Well, over the years, from fluctuations of dams being let go and just more development maybe up the road, who knows? Mother Nature's got a little bit to do with this. Some of the area was the slopes were beginning to erode to the point where the street on Exchange Street was about to fall in. And so working with the Army Corps of Engineer and obviously city money, free cash again, we were able to come up with a plan and hire a contractor to do the work, and they're out there now.
They're out there now, and I think as you drive by, you'll see that most of those side slopes are a sandy nature. And as water moves through sand, we all know
Just
it pulls
grabs
it with
it.
us. So the proposed fix for this thing is we're going to excavate out the unsuitable material, and we're going to build a barrier on the bottom of the brook, and up the sidewalls it's going to be 12 to 24-inch stone now. So it's going to be riprap that's going to aid in prohibiting the erosion as the way it is now. So
It's harder to push the rock around.
it's
than
hard
it
to
is
push this
sand.
rock because it's going to be all big rock and very heavy, so the flow of the water probably won't pull much of it with it. But after the rock elevation, it's going to be a fill of material that will grow, and it'll be layered with a impregnated fabric that'll grow and help erosion there too. And on top of that, we're going to re-shrub and try to make it look more natural at
So
the end.
the rooting system will help to stabilize.
The roots actually do help, yeah.
I've seen in a lot of places where this is a regular thing where I'm amazed. I'm like, how are they going to do that? And they're always in there planting things, the roots. Well, obviously, these are plants that kind of like a weeping willow where the roots are going to just sort of move in all over the place, capture the water, and stabilize the earth. which is a big deal. I saw him out there working. And I saw where the excavator was. I'm like, I'm not all that sure. I want to be the guy up
It's
there in
not
that
a,
excavator.
it's a
but-
tough site, there's not much room. You can't really stockpile your stuff, but I mean, you know as well as I do, we've been here a long time, and this project has been going on for quite some time. And the original federal funding was generated by Mary Jane Simmons way back, and it's
Taking a long time.
It's
to get
taken a
this
long
project.
time,
There's a
but I
lot
mean,
of
it's-
bureaucracy to sort of go along with it. You're
federal
working with
government, the
federal
Army
government.
Corps, God bless them.
Yeah. No, it's and the first time we dealt it, they bid the project, and then the contractor realized he bid the project too low, and he could make more money somewhere else. And well, you know
It's
the rest
been
of
an
the story.
adventure.
So, in terms of helping us out in the city, if there's anybody that got these souped up snow blowers, if you can help in blowing out fire hydrants, if you can help in terms of doing your sidewalk area. Businesses in the downtown are responsible for their sidewalks. That doesn't always work that way. We do the municipal parking lots and some of the parking lots that we lease. So it's not just the streets in the city. We also do the schools, what we're responsible for. So the city has a huge responsibility here. We don't want anybody falling, and we get out there and attack it as fast as we possibly can and hit as many streets and sidewalks simultaneously as possibly can. And again, we're surrounded by 12 hills, which means there are our target areas for a lot of this equipment is the hills. If we get people stuck under the Route 13 bridge near Jiffy Lube, then that means traffic backups. That means the sander truck can't get there. So there's a whole lot of planning and logistics that go along with this. But they do a good job. They work long hours, and much appreciated. Just jumping over to, I don't know if you had any questions about that at all, but jumping over to hours at City Hall, we will be open the rest of this week. Today is December 13th. We're open the rest of this week and all of next week, and we'll be off on Christmas Day, which just so happens to fall on a Monday, and same thing with New Year's. So other than that, there are no scheduled interruptions, and we are ready to go. There's still, if you have time, stop by City Hall for the Festival of Trees. Bidding stops 17th or 18th, is it, Wendy? 17th. So if you're looking for the tree, you've been busy and you haven't had time to fill up all those rooms in your house, and you wanted to put 6 trees up and you only got none up, you come down and bid on these trees, you get beautiful trees. Some of these things are worth $400 and $500. You can walk away with a tree for $150 in a lot of cases, $200. And if you think like a guy, we wrap them up in stretch paper, throw it in your truck, bring that baby home, fluff it up a little bit. If you're a guy, there's no fluffing needed. You unwrap it, and you got a tree, right? You just plug it in, and everybody's happy. This is Press Desk. My name's Dean Mazzarella, Mayor for the City of Leominster, and we'll be meeting weekly and bi-weekly, depending on the need, with the press. We'll also put this up on YouTube. It'll be available on social media. We'll also open it up to any members of the press that come here with any questions that they have. Are there any questions at all that you have that we haven't touched on today?
The only question that I had was wanting to get a update on the police station, because I know the last that was mentioned about that was that a couple of spots were being looked at downtown, a couple of pieces of property were being looked at downtown as a possible home for the police station. Just wanted to know what the latest is
Good
with
question,
that.
and we are at the end. We believe we are at the end of that process, and now we will convene the building committee. We had a site selection committee set up, so we'll bring those recommendations to the site selection committee very soon. Now it's just a matter of scheduling through the holidays, so if we can, we'll do it before the holidays. And then we'll move on to the city council with that recommendation and funding. And, we do what's called friendly taking. Sometimes by eminent domain, there's a friendly taking. It may require eminent domain. It's not so friendly or whatever. We haven't reached that point. So there are some decisions that need to be made, but I suspect that will come pretty quick.
So is there any sort of indication, calendar, whatever, on when there could be a shovel in the ground, for groundbreaking, or when construction could start?
We have to acquire the site, and that will obviously take time. There's central register. It has to be. There's a whole legal process. That in and of itself is several months. Then getting the council to do bond authorization, and then just in preparation for that is a whole process. And then the design begins, and it's really a question of how fast the design process goes. There's a big building. It's 30,000 square feet. There's a lot of programming pieces of this, a lot of different pieces of this process. And so it's hard to say when the shovel actually goes in the ground, but it's more than, the shovel goes in the ground the day we pick a site. That's, to me, that's the beginning of the project. And then the rest of it sort of unfolds. But the last payment for the library is the second half of fiscal 18, and we're ready to go. So I think we have two good sites. One I think is better than the other maybe, but they're both good and they're both stay near town. One does a redevelopment of a particular area, the other one's, you know. So again, the shovel goes in the ground, the day that the site selection picks, you name it, picks a location, and we move that on to the city council level.
So are we talking like a year, maybe year and a half, 2 years before construction can start?
No, it shouldn't be that long. But again, there's a whole process, a legal process, right? You have to go out to bid. There's documents that have to be put together. It's that in and of itself. But you can't. There's no way around that process. So it takes as long as it does to get to the legal process. I think once an architectural firm is hired to actually do the design, then they're sort of in charge of bringing all the groups together, doing the programming, and that process moves pretty quickly. So it's hard to say. I don't want to say it's a half a year, and then somebody gets upset because they roll the tape back and they say, "Well, you said 6 months." Well, the process is the process, and you have to follow it.
It was just trying to get a guesstimate, about how long does it, do things usually take. So just as a guesstimate of about how long it would take.
The engineering. Let's just assume that one of these sites is acceptable. If not, then we're back to the drawing board. So as long as everything sort of falls into place, I would assume that we're doing demolition and that sort of thing before the end of the year. Yep. Okay. What are we doing here? Did I miss a piece here? Did I miss a piece? Mr. Gendron?
I don't know.
What are we talking about?
We're talking, I
I'm
guess, a
looking at
little bit
notes.
about winter safety and
Oh, okay.
some things that some people can do to
Yes, there are all
keep
these
themselves.
things that they sell now that people think are alternatives to heating systems.
Yeah, and that becomes a problem. Every year we always have issues with small heaters, that electric heaters. Number one, they draw a lot of electricity, so that can be an issue. And the other thing is that people tend to put things a little too close to them. And that can become a problem. So we always recommend if you're going to use any type of a space heater, it needs to be directly plugged into a plug,
No
not into
extension
extension
cords,
cords. They're not meant for that.
Eventually, that cord's going to get hot,
Yes.
and it's a good way to tell that it can't do that job.
Yeah, basically your toaster is supposed to heat up.
Right.
An electrical cord is not supposed to heat up
Exactly,
like that.
right.
But if you overuse it, it can do the same thing. It can become very hot like that, and it can start a fire.
Before the new codes were passed, pellet stoves didn't need to be 3 feet or whatever off the ground, and so you have quite a, 2015, we had all these snowstorms, and then suddenly people, drive by a house and you're like, that thing's under snow.
Yeah.
That need a vent, have more direct vent
Yes.
appliances today.
We do have, and we've worked with this in the past, because heating elements, ever since the Nichols law passed with the carbon monoxide, the heating units, they came up with those direct vent and those power venting.
Right.
The issue is that here in New England, the national code for those was to have them exhaust a minimum of 1 foot off the ground. We know here in New England we get 2-3 feet
Right.
of snow
And
sometimes.
that just covers that up.
So that's a concern that people should, if they have that type of a system that they're venting and they're close to the ground, they need to make sure that they go out and check that periodically during the winter to make sure it's not getting clogged up, because that's what caused that whole Nichols thing and brought that everybody has to have the carbon monoxide detectors now.
The new carbon monoxide detectors, are you finding that they sort of tipping people off where somebody forgot the car's running too close to the house and suddenly there's too much?
Yeah, we do. We get quite a few calls for them. A lot of times the calls may be false.
Yeah.
The nice thing is that the fire department, we've purchased equipment that not only can we go out and we can test the home to see if there's carbon monoxide, but we now have equipment similar to like a doctor's office that we can put it on somebody's finger and can actually check to see if there's carbon monoxide in their bloodstream.
Yeah.
And then from there, we can advise them, listen, you've got low amounts, you need to go see your own doctor,
Right.
or
You should
we're
come with us.
advising you to come into the
Right.
ambulance. You've got high numbers.
Right. Wow.
So,
And that people buy, propane heaters and kerosene heaters.
Yes.
All those things are illegal in Massachusetts. So these stoves that are called monitors, which in Maine you can use them and they direct vent out, or
Yes.
supposedly burn zero, 100% clean, but they're not legal in Massachusetts.
correct. We do have some that are sold at like Home Depot, Lowe's. They're called buddy heaters. But those are specifically stated that they are not to be used indoors.
Right.
And part of the agreement that we in the state came up with, because these were one of those ones that kind of fell through the crack. They're putting it on the shelf and people are bringing them home and using them in their homes, but they really shouldn't be.
I own one. It actually heats up pretty good, but you shouldn't heat your house with it.
No,
Therefore,
not-
you're changing your tire. It's really cold, and you're
Exactly.
sitting outside or something. They work really good. They have a little fan on them and everything.
Right,
But
right.
they're really not meant for you to bring
and
them in your house.
those are the ones that have those small propane tanks
Yeah, little
attached
small
to them.
ones, right.
And those they emit a lot of carbon
lot.
monoxide, and if you're not in a well-ventilated area, such as inside somebody's home, it potentially can kill you.
Yeah.
So, we want to make sure that we keep track of that type of stuff. And homeowners, you mentioned earlier about maybe clearing off their hydrant if it's
Right.
near their
Yeah.
home. One of the other things is trying to make sure that people's sidewalks, driveways are cleared.
Right.
When
And
we-
the numbers. How about the numbers?
Oh, the
that are
numbers on
missing off
houses are-
everybody's house. I always think if an
Yeah.
ambulance has to come here,
Yeah.
you're talking seconds here, saving somebody's life sometimes. If you're riding back and forth to try to find, especially those long driveways and the
Yes.
mailboxes are inconsistent, you're trying to find the house, you don't want to be sort of riding back and forth and pulling in
Yeah.
the driveway and going back and is it this house
Correct.
or that house? And I'm looking for 237. Where is it? I can't
And
find
we
it.
recommend 4-inch numbers,
Right.
but the state actually has a law, Mass General law, that requires that the houses are supposed to have numbers.
Right.
And in that law, they state minimum 2.5
Right.
inches.
But
But we recommend, listen, the larger the number,
The
the
easier it is
quicker
to
we're going to
find you.
see it.
Yes.
And yeah, the faster our response can be. So, but those are some safety issues when we get to somebody's house.
Right.
If you have somebody that's elderly and they may frequent the hospital and there's a chance that we might have to be there, try to get those steps cleared off.
Right.
And it's just that much quicker. I mean, we'll send extra people to a call like that, especially snowstorms.
Right.
We have.
you don't want to get hurt either. You can't help
Exactly.
somebody if you're hurt.
Exactly, and if we can't get to the house.
Right.
So during storms, we usually will have somebody driving the pickup truck,
Right.
and they will follow the ambulance in case somebody's driveway is filled.
Right.
We can push the snow out of the way to get the ambulance into the driveway.
Right, and it happens.
Oh, it
Yeah,
does.
yeah.
It happens quite often, actually.
And so if you have a neighbor that maybe is living alone, and we have a lot more people who are aging out,
Yeah.
who live alone, or somebody that's disabled, and they're not often the ones that might ask for help, but offer to help or call us, and
Yeah.
somehow or another we'll get somebody down there to help them out.
And as far as like smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors, we try to do programs as often as we can. That is kind of done through grant money. We get a little bit every year
Right.
from the state. If you know somebody that has no working detectors in their home, elderly, let us know. Call fire prevention.
guys will go down and do it.
We will go down. I have installed probably well over 500 detectors throughout the years. That's a pet peeve for me. Unfortunately, we lost a person
Yep.
on Main Street
Yep.
a year ago,
Yep.
and I had just been to about 2 houses over, and I just gave them all smoke detectors
Right.
for nothing.
For free. And you
For
even
free.
install 'em.
And went and installed them, and had I known that this woman needed help, I would have gone next door and done it for her too.
Absolutely.
So if there's...
And they're free. So,
That's
Yeah.
the key. They're free, and we will go out and try to install them. You know, you give us a call, and
why don't you
and
give
we'll
your
be
number
there.
here so people will know what your number is?
The number in fire prevention is 978-534-5950, and you can speak to any one of us. There's 3 of us in the office. You know, leave a message, and we will do our best to go out and to get detectives in the home as quick as possible, because we feel that that's important.
It's critical, yeah. Well, thank you so much. I know you're
Not a problem.
passionate about what you do and,
Yeah.
you know, prevention, right?
Yes.
We don't want to go to fires.
No,
Right?
no.
We don't want to see people hurt.
I'd just as soon see people prevent and,
Right.
and be safe versus having to deal with the aftermath.
Right.
That's
Especially
not the
around
fun
the
part.
holiday seasons, right? Be
Exactly.
extra careful with all those lights. People are stringing them in, tying them in together. They get heaters going. It's just
Extension
a
cords,
Recipe
extension cords.
for disaster.
Yes.
Okay, anything? Okay. If not, this is Press Desk and our first press conference. We'll be doing it weekly and bi-weekly, and one or the other, and is December 13th, 2017. We'll see you soon.